Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Shri Kaudanitai Mayapur Shashi Ki, Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta Ki, Vaishnav Sangha Vaishnav Seva Ki, Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this morning we are reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 21. And this chapter is entitled The Opulence and Sweetness of Lord Krishna. So there's a few verses we're going to go through. I think it's from 138 to 144. Hare Krishna. Okay. So I'll just go through the first verses together, and then we'll do the verse 144 responsively. Krishnanga Lavanya Pura Madura Haite Samudara. Oh, sorry, that's not the. Thanks, Ru. Tateye. Actually, that's not the correct melody, I don't think, for this one. Yeah, the correct meter. You know what? I think I might just do the English for these ones. Okay. Krishna's body is a city of attractive features, and it is sweeter than sweet. His face, which is like the moon, is sweeter still, and the supremely sweet, gentle smile on that moon-like face is like rays of moonshine. And there is a little purport for this one. The smile on Krishna's face, which is just like the smiling of the moon, generates greater and greater happiness for the gopis. Text 139. The beauty of Krishna's smile is the sweetest feature of all. His smile is like a full moon that spreads its rays throughout the three worlds, Goloka Vrindavan, the spiritual sky of the Vaikunthas, and Devidam, the material world. Thus, Krishna's shining beauty spreads in all 10 directions. Text 140. His slight smiling and fragrant illumination are compared to camphor, which enters the sweetness of his lips. That sweetness is transformed and enters into space as vibrations from the holes of his flute. Text 141. The sound of Krishna's flute spreads in the 4 directions. Even though Krishna vibrates his flute within this universe, its sound pierces the universal covering and goes to the spiritual sky. Thus, the vibration enters the ears of all inhabitants. It especially enters Goloka Vrindavan Dham and attracts the minds of the young damsels of Rajabhumi, bringing them forcibly to where Krishna is present. Text 142. The vibration of Krishna's flute is very aggressive, and it breaks the vows of all chaste women. Indeed, its vibration takes them forcibly from the laps of their husbands. The vibration of his flute attracts even the goddesses of fortune in the Vaikuntha planets, to say nothing of the poor damsels of Vrindavan. Text 143. The vibration of his flute slackens the knots of their underwear, even in front of their husbands. Thus, the gopis are forced to abandon their household duties and come before Lord Krishna. In this way, all social etiquette, shame, and fear are vanquished. The vibration of his flute causes all women to dance. So this is today's verse, text 144. Yeah, maybe someone can give me the meter for this, because I'm a little stumped. Does anyone know? And then how would you do the next bit? Someone knows? Alan? Oh, Prabhu? Oh. Well, yeah, I'm a bit stumped. I've never come across this before. Well, I'm not quite sure how to do it. And maybe I'll just... Yeah, thank you. That's why Prabhupada translated them into English, right? You know, it's... Kanara bitara vasha kare apane tana sada spure anya shabda na daya pravashite ana kata na shune kana ana balit bolite bolaya ana e krishnara vamsera charite. Okay, we'll do the translation. The vibration of his flute is just like a bird that creates a nest within the ears of the gopis and always remains prominent there, not allowing any other sound to enter their ears. Indeed, the gopis cannot hear anything else, nor are they able to concentrate on anything else, not even to give a suitable reply. Such are the effects of the vibration of Lord Krishna's flute. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. The vibration of Krishna's flute is always prominent in the ears of the gopis. Naturally, they cannot hear anything else. Constant remembrance of the holy sound of Krishna's flute keeps them enlightened and enlivened, and they do not allow any other sound to enter their ears. Since their attention is fixed on Krishna's flute, they cannot divert their minds to any other subject. In other words, a devotee who has the sound of Krishna's flute, who has heard the sound of Krishna's flute, forgets to talk or hear of any other subject. This vibration of Krishna's flute is represented by the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. A serious devotee of the Lord who chants and hears this transcendental vibration becomes so accustomed to it that he cannot divert his attention to any subject matter not related to Krishna's blissful characteristics and paraphernalia. Om Agyana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swabadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The vibration of his flute is just like a bird that creates a nest within the ears of the gopis and always remains prominent there, not allowing any other sound to enter their ears. Indeed, the gopis cannot hear anything else, nor are they able to concentrate on anything else, not even to give a suitable reply. Such are the effects of the vibration of Lord Krishna's flute. So when Isham Prabhu asked me to give the talk, and I was like I said, I was very happy, and it's an honor and a privilege. And then I started reading the verses. Not sure if I'm qualified to speak on any of these verses. But then, actually, I started to, and I'm definitely not, just to qualify that. Although I'm just reminded, one time I was listening to some seminars by Jai Advaita Swami. So it was about maybe 29 seminars called Strong Speaking, Straight Talking, something like that. And he was talking about the different idiosyncrasies that devotees have. And one of them is that when a devotee sits on the Vyasasam, they say, I'm not qualified to be here. So Jai Advaita Swami was saying, well, what are you doing there? Get off. If you're not qualified, get off. What are you doing? He said, don't say these things. Sometimes we say these things out of humility, but actually we are qualified to sit here in the sense that, Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to speak, to sit on the Vyasasam. And therefore, with the instruction of the spiritual master comes, the potency. Having said that, yes, I was looking at these verses and I was thinking these seem to be quite, high above my pay grade. Anyway, but I started trying to understand these verses in the context of the chapter and in the context of the Chaitanya Charitamrta overall. So there are 5 most important subject matters within the Chaitanya Charitamrta. And this section is one of the 5 most important sections of the Chaitanya Charitamrta. So those are talks with Sanatana Goswami, talks with Rupa Goswami, talks with Ramananda Roy, talks with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and talks with Prakashananda Saraswati. And these are so important that Srila Prabhupada gave these 5 most important sections in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And that was one of the early books. And Srila Prabhupada translated or gave us the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in this wonderful book, because at that time, it was early on in the movement, he didn't know if he was going to have time to be able to translate the Chaitanya Charitamrta. So he thought, well, at least if I've given them the teachings of Lord Chaitanya with these 5 most important subject matters, they've got the essence there. And Prabhupada did the same thing with the Krishna book, right? The summary study of the 10th canto. This is like the crown jewel. This is Krishna's smiling face of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto. And of course, when Prabhupada came to America, he had the 1st canto. Prabhupada also said, I put everything into the 1st canto, all the philosophies in there. Because again, he didn't know how long he had. Prabhupada said, I came at the fag end of my life. The fag end, that's apparently an expression. The fag end, it means right at the end, There's nothing left. So Prabhupada gave us the Krishna book in the same way. And the Krishna book is so wonderful. It's like, it's the verses, but intertwined with the purports in such a way that you're reading it and you kind of don't realize you're getting the philosophy. It's just like, unless you're reading the teachings of the personified Vedas, my goodness, that's a chapter. It's about 30 million pages long. When I was a younger devotee, I used to think, oh God, can't stand this section, the teachings of the personified Vedas. It's really heavy. I wasn't so inclined to hearing all the philosophy. But actually, it's such a wonderful book. So Prabhupada gave us like that. He gave us the 5 most important sections in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And this particular section, which is coming from the talks with Sanatana Goswami, we're hearing about the qualities, the opulences and the sweetness of Lord Krishna. Lord Chaitanya is explaining all of this wonderful, unparalleled knowledge to Sanatana Goswami. And therefore, there are 3 acharyas. There's Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So Sambandha means, the knowledge which helps us to establish our relationship with Krishna. By hearing certain knowledge, it helps us to understand Krishna, helps us to form a relationship. So Sanatana Goswami, he is the Sambandha Guru. Like that. So all this knowledge that he's hearing from Lord Chaitanya is forming the basis of this knowledge, which helps us to establish a relationship with Krishna. Because if you want to develop love for someone, you need to know about them. The example we always give it, this is like a classic thing that from any Hare Krishna class, Love Jack. Well, I can't love Jack. Who is he? Don't worry about who he is. Just love him. But what does he look like? Don't worry about that. Doesn't matter what he looks like. Just love him. But what does he look like? Where does he live? What does he dress like? What does he like to do? If we want to know if we want to love someone, we have to know about them. I was thinking about this the other day when I had my first child, Haridas. He's downstairs snoozing in the ashram. Sometimes people talk about when you first, when you have a baby, it's like, oh, I just fell in love with them, from the first moment I saw them. And I was thinking, I don't think that's true, actually. Yes, when I first saw him, it's like, of course, it's like I fell in love with him. And, when I first heard his cry, it brought tears to my eyes. But I was thinking, I love him even more now I know him. Like the more you get to know someone, the more you love them. So yeah, there was some initial love there. But now when I look back at photos of him as a baby, and it's, now I know him, I know what he's like, his sense of humor, the little funny things he does. It's like, there's more love. So this knowledge, this Sambandha Gyan, helping us to establish our relationship with Krishna, it's so important. We have to, if we want to love Krishna, we need to know about Krishna. So then you have the Abhideya, that is the process. You have first establishing the relationship, then you have Abhideya, which is the process of devotional service. So Rupa Goswami, he is the Abhidheya Guru. And then you have the goal, Prayojana. So you have the process, the Sambandha, getting to know Krishna. Then you have the Abhidheya, the process of serving Krishna. And then you have the Prayojana. Prema Pumata Mahan, to develop pure love for Krishna. This is the goal. It's important to understand the goal, isn't it? Like when you're going on a journey, like we drove up from Sunderland on Friday night. And, you know, I've done this journey to Scotland many times, actually. It's kind of there in my muscle memory. But still, you know, you need the sat-nav. When you first get in the car, what do you do? I mean, if you're old school, perhaps you get out the A to Z, but not looking at anyone here who might be old school. My dad's old school, actually. When he came to visit us recently, and he was like saying, do I go out on the A63-9 and then take the 1-2? Oh, Dad, I've got no idea. I don't know. I just put the sat-nav on. I'm sorry. So most of us in 2025, we get in the car and what do? Right. What's the postcode? What's the destination? You need to know what the destination is. You need to know what the goal is. So this is Prayojana. This is Prema Pumata Mahan, to develop pure love for God. Otherwise, if you set out on a journey without knowing what is the destination, you know, you might end up somewhere else. I was supposed to have come to Les Mahego, but I ended up in Arbroath. And then who knows what I would have done. But thankfully, I knew the destination was Karuna Bhavan, and here I am amongst all of you. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he's in charge of, he's the the Prayojana Guru. Yeah. So I was just thinking also the process of learning about Krishna, what is the result? So in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 8, this is one of the 4 key verses. This was the first verse I ever learned in Krishna consciousness. I was going to the Namahat in Blackpool, and Radhika Nagraprabhu, he gave us homework. You have to learn the 4 key verses. Aham savasha prabhavo mata savam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samambataha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So this is the result of understanding Krishna. He's the source of all spiritual and material worlds. He's the source of everything. Sarva Karana Karanam. By understanding this, one engages in pure devotional service, full devotional service, and worships Krishna with all their hearts. This is the result. Yeah. So I was thinking about this knowledge of Krishna. So one time Srila Prabhupada gave this was a pastime. I've heard my Guru Maharaj tell it many times. It's a funny one, but it's very instructive. So when Srila Prabhupada would go to centers, you know, we have 2 disciples of Srila Prabhupada in the room here. They can testify. So they would, you know, new devotees were joining all the time, and Prabhupada would come to a center, and then there would be inevitably some initiations. So Prabhupada went to one center, and he said, okay, who is to get initiated? And then the temple president said, oh, here's the list. And then Prabhupada said, well, what about back to Jack? And then the temple president said, oh, you know, he's a new boy, Prabhupada. You know, he's not been coming for very long. He's not ready to get initiated. And Prabhupada said, I will say who is able to get initiated. So he called back to Jack forward. He said, back to Jack, you know, are you happy in Krishna consciousness? And he said, oh, yes, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada would always ask that, right? You know, are you happy in Krishna consciousness? It's important to be happy in Krishna consciousness. If we're not happy, we're doing something wrong. Susukam kartam avyayam. And if we're not happy, find a devotee who is happy and say, Prabhu or Mataji, what is it? You always seem to be happy in Krishna consciousness. Am I doing something wrong? Anyway, so he said, back to Jack. He said, who is Krishna? And he said, Prabhupada, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he said, very good. He said, who are you? And he said, I am Krishna's eternal servitor. And Prabhupada said, very good, he can be initiated. Because he understood the essence of all knowledge. Who am I? Who is Krishna? And what is my relationship? Who am I? I'm the Bhakta. Who is Krishna? He's Bhagavan. And what is my relationship? Bhakti. To engage in loving devotional service. Yeah. There's a really nice verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrta. I used to chant it quite a lot. It's Advaita Acharya. He says, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. What an amazing verse. I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. Gopi Bhatu, Padukamalaya, Dasu Dasanadas. We're the servants. So Prabhupada said, yes, you can be initiated. You've understood the essence of all knowledge. So this brings us to today's verse. This was the context, because I haven't been here while you've been studying this, and for anyone else who's not been here, this is the context. Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya has been speaking to Sanatana Goswami, giving him this knowledge of Sambandha Gyan. And this verse today is all about Krishna's flute. So Krishna, he has how many qualities? We heard yesterday, Prana? Unlimited, yeah. No, 64. No, he's unlimited. Yes, as Prana said yesterday, yeah, he has unlimited qualities, but they're categorized into 64. And Krishna has 4 special qualities which set him aside from Lord Narayan. We used to read these on a Thursday morning. Do you remember we used to read the qualities of Radha and Krishna? Yeah, very nice. So Krishna's 4 special qualities. Does anyone know? Someone give me one of Krishna's 4 special qualities. Prana people. Always surrounded by loving devotees. Anyone? Another one? Yes, he's expert at transcendental flute playing. That's how it's described in teaching. He's expert in transcendental. Jai Prabhu, a famous book distributor, he was saying that sometimes he says to people, this is Krishna, he jams on the flute. It's got that cool American accent, he jams on the flute. Prabhu? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he can manifest wonderful pastimes. Yeah, amazing pastimes. And what's the last one? He possesses unparalleled personal beauty. Yeah. So we've got, he's always surrounded by loving devotees. He's expert at transcendental flute playing. He jams on the flute. He can manifest wonderful pastimes, and he possesses unparalleled. So this quality of Krishna's flute playing, it's not just like, yeah, he plays the flute. This is one of his 4 special qualities that sets him aside from Lord Vishnu. It's like, so therefore in the Nectar of Devotion, you can learn about Krishna's flute. Well, again, this is Sambandha. This is by learning about things like this. It helps us to remember all, we've got so much knowledge in our minds, speaking personally of so many other things like who was #1 on Top of the Pops in 1988, or who was this, or whatever it is. There's so many things in our mind, but we have to get those things out and replace them with Krishna knowledge. I don't know who was #1 in 1988. But yes, Krishna has 3 types of flutes. He has the Venu, and the Vamsi. This is from the Nectar of Devotion. So the Venu is small, no more than 6 inches, and it has 6 holes. The Murali is 18 inches long, and it has 4 holes. And then the Vamsi is 15 inches long, and it has 9 holes. We can find out this knowledge, like we were saying. I love Jack. Well, what type of flute does he play? Well, he plays a Vamsi. He plays a Murali. So, who else has this knowledge? What type of flute God plays? How many holes it's got? How would you ever come to that knowledge? Through mental speculation. One time, Nalati Maharaj, he said to Prabhupada in the early days, Swamiji, is it really true that, God is cowherd boy, blackish, bluish complexion. All day. Is it really true? Prabhupada looked almost like upset that he said, I would lie to you? And he said it with so much conviction. She said from that point onwards, she was just like convinced, okay, yeah, Krishna's God. One time I was hearing my Guru Maharaj, he was speaking about Indradumna Swami, was speaking with Govinda Maharaj. He said, when was the first time you met Prabhupada? And Indradumna Swami said, it was Detroit, 1971, in the airport. He said, and Prabhupada gave this most amazing lecture right there in the airport. And he said, but right there in the middle of the lecture, Prabhupada leaned forward on the table. Prabhupada giving this lecture to all the hundreds of devotees there, all the press around. Prabhupada leaned forward over the table and looked into the audience and said, please believe me when I tell you, you are not that body. And Govinda Maharaj, he said, you know what? He said, that's the only thing I remember from that lecture too. And then they were speaking to their godbrother, Pragosh Prabhu, not our Irish Pragosh Prabhu, but Pragosh Prabhu in America, famous book distributor. They said, Pragosh Prabhu, when was the first time you met Prabhupada? He said, Detroit, 1971. And Prabhupada said the most amazing thing. Please believe me when I tell you, you are not that body. And so they all had this realization that when Prabhupada said that, it came with full conviction, full knowledge. I can say you're not that body, but it doesn't, no one's going to go away and say, yeah, 2025, Karuna Bhavan, Chaitanya, Vallabha, Dasa. He said the most amazing thing. No one's going to say that. But they all remembered Prabhupada saying it. So when Prabhupada said to Malati Mataji, do you think that I would lie to you? It came with full knowledge. Yeah, Krishna's God. He's a cowherd boy. Like that. So this knowledge is there. I mean, who else has got this knowledge? And it's described that when Krishna plays the fifth note on his flute, it's that fifth note, that certain vibration. It does miraculous things. It says in the Shastra that inanimate things become animate. So like the river Yamuna stops flowing. Oh, it's Krishna's flute. And animate things become animate. So like a stone, which, doesn't move, suddenly melts, hearing the sound of Krishna's flute. These things are, achincha, they're inconceivable. But just by hearing about these things, we become purified. And it's described that when the gopis heard the sound of Krishna's flute, they gave up everything. Atmanavedanam, full surrender. They left their husbands, they went to the dead of night, to the forest, because they heard Krishna playing his flute. And then what did Krishna do when they got there? He said, what are you doing out here in the forest? What are you doing? You shouldn't be out here alone. You should go home. He sent them home. Can you imagine? You've surrendered everything. We just think, oh yeah, well, they've just gone to the forest. It's not a big deal. Go home, just who's going to notice, I used to sneak out at night when I was a boy. No, what it actually, the context of that means is that they've left their husbands. They've left their children. What mother leaves her children? They've left their children. They've left their husbands to go to Krishna because they're, spontaneously attracted to Krishna and the sound of his flute. And that means in the Vedic society, you can't go back. That the shame on the person, How can you ever go back to your home? You left your babies, you left your husband. What type of person are you? Outcast from society. Krishna says, go home. What are you doing out here? So sometimes if we try and understand these things with mundane morals, we won't get it. And that's why, he's a debauchee. One time, one devotee was, and people sometimes accuse us like that on the streets, right? There was one devotee one time, and he was distributing books in a town in England. And one person came up to him and said, I've read your books. Your God's got 16,108 wives. So this devotee, he was preparing himself to be like, okay, I've got to defend, here, because what type of God is that? Your God has got 16,108 wives. And then he said, That's my kind of God. Something to aspire to, you know. Yeah, we can't even, you know, but he had 16,108 palaces, you know. It's hard enough just to maintain one home in Kali Yuga. Anyway, I went. I was going to say something else. I won't let my mind go there. But the point is that actually by increasing the separation, this is the highest ecstasy. The gopis are experiencing the highest ecstasy by this separation. Like they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Prabhupada, one time, he glorified George Harrison because he said, he was composed this song, I really want to know you. I really want to be with you, but it takes so long. And Prabhupada, he said, yes, this is correct. This is the mood of the Goswamis. They were running around Vrindavan saying, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Not that I've got Krishna, not that I've seen Krishna. No, where is Krishna? These are the topmost devotees. Yeah. So this mood of separation, and I'm going to bring this round to the verse. Prabhupada's talking about this sound of the flute, and he's talking about that for us, the sound of the flute is represented in the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when we're chanting Hare Krishna, sometimes we do feel connected to Krishna, right? Like this, we gave this example, Kishore Prabhu's Kirtan this morning. I just felt like, because I'd come up a bit late to the morning program, I was feeling sleep. But then as soon as I got in that Kirtan, I just felt, wow, yeah, now I remember why I became a Hare Krishna. Now I feel connected to Krishna again. All you need is a good Kirtan, you know. But sometimes we feel disconnected from Krishna, right? Put your hands up if sometimes you feel disconnected from Krishna. Yeah. So I was reading a really nice book one time, Japa Meditations, Danador Swami, and he was saying that for a river to flow nicely, you have to have two banks. If you only have a river bank on one side, but not on the other, the river overflows into the field, it stops flowing, it becomes stagnant, you know, and it becomes diseased. But if you have that river bank, but none on the other side, then again, it happens the other side. You need two river banks for the river to flow nicely. So it's saying that in Krishna consciousness, there's the bank of Sambhoga, the bank of separation. We're feeling connected to Krishna. Yes, Krishna is there in his holy name. Yes, Krishna is a cowherd boy. Yes, Krishna is there in the association of devotees. Krishna is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we feel a sense of connection. But if we only ever feel connected to Krishna, then easy come, easy go. We take it cheaply. If every time you picked up your bead bag and you're just experiencing the highest bliss of chanting Hare Krishna, it's just like becomes like a ritual. Oh yeah, Krishna's there. Krishna's at my beck and call. Hare Krishna, Hare. Come on, Krishna. I want you now. You know, like that. What is it? Familiarity breeds contempt. But so therefore you need the other bank of Vipralamba, feeling separation from Krishna. But if you only ever feel separated from Krishna, then eventually you'll give up. You're like, fling your bead bag into the corner, and this process doesn't work. Krishna's not there in his holy name. So he said we need both banks. Sometimes we need to feel connected, but sometimes we need to feel separation, because when we do feel separated from Krishna, then do we not chant with more intensity? Or if we're out distributing books, no one's buying a book. Krishna, come on, what are you doing? Come on. So like the gopis, they heard the sound of Krishna's flute, and, you know, they weren't exactly saying, come on, Krishna, what are you doing? But that's, you know, can you imagine? That's what I'd be like. Krishna, what are you doing? I've given everything up. But he's increasing that separation. He's increasing that attachment. So sometimes we shouldn't be worried when things go wrong in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said, don't be surprised when things go wrong in this material world. Be surprised when things go right. It's Kali Yuga. I saw a really nice meme or quote the other day. It said that Krishna doesn't say that there will be no storms, but he provides an unsinkable ship. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. Because in Krishna consciousness, yeah, we go through the mill sometimes, don't we? We go up and down. Sometimes it's difficult. You know, it's like, what is this? I didn't sign up for this on the Back to program. I thought it was chant Hare Krishna and be happy. What is all this? But if we stick to the process, if we stay on the ship, the good ship of ISKCON, where Srila Prabhupada is captain, this ship is unsinkable. Throw ourselves off. Sometimes when it's the seasickness and the storm, people throw themselves off. Oh, it's too much on this boat. They throw that's the source of the rocking up and down on the boat, is the waves. Don't throw yourself into the waves. Stay on the ship. You have to stay on the ship. We have a good ship, we have a good captain, we have a wall of sound. Good ship of ISKCON, a good captain, Srila Prabhupada. We have a wall of sound. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're homeward bound, back home, back to Godhead. So, sorry, I haven't properly got onto the purport here. I'm just going to come back to just try and bring it back to the purport again. The point is that Srila Prabhupada is saying that for us, the sound of the flute, where Prabhupada is saying that when the devotees heard the sound of the flute, they didn't want their minds to be converted to anyone else. So Prabhupada said, for us, this is represented in the sound of the Maha Mantra. So there was a couple of things that Prabhupada said in the first. Yeah, so one thing Prabhupada said. So yeah, he said, constant remembrance of the holy sound of Krishna's flute keeps them enlightened and enlivened. Constant remembrance, enlightened and enlivened. They don't allow their mind to be diverted to anything else. So I was thinking about this. There's a really nice verse in the back. So, you know, when we read Prabhupada's books, it reminds us of other purports of Prabhupada and things. Sometimes you can have so much fun. Just you read a verse and it's, oh, that reminds me of this verse. Then you can go and read that verse. And it's, oh, yeah, but that reminds me of this. And it's, you can just get together with a devotee. You can just spend hours just discussing one verse because it takes you off. Prabhupada said we have to read his purports and understand this knowledge from different angles of vision, you know, understand my purports threadbare. So I was thinking there's really one of my favorite verses in the Bhagavad Gita, the purport, chapter 8, text 5. Prabhupada, I'm paraphrasing this bit, but he says that to remember Krishna from the beginning of, at the end of one's life is not possible unless one has practiced it from the beginning. And therefore, he said, and therefore we have to constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I love that. Constant, incessant. I used to meditate upon that on Sankirtan, you know, in between people. Constantly, incessantly. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada, it's just such a small purport, that one. Chapter 8, text 5. But Prabhupada quotes the whole Maha Mantra twice in such a small purport. Amazing purport. And then another one, that then by hearing the flute, or for us, hearing the Maha Mantra, one becomes constantly enlightened and enlivened. And that reminds me of a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter. Just listen to this purport. It's absolutely amazing. You perhaps know it, but, you know, hearing it again, it's amazing. Here we go. I love this purport. Yeah, O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, the result of Krishna consciousness is that one becomes increasingly enlightened, and he enjoys life with a thrill, not only for some time, but at every moment. That's what we're signing up for when we join the Hare Krishna movement. One becomes increasingly enlightened and enjoys life with a thrill. Not just like, how are you doing? Oh, yeah, all right, not too bad. No, I'm thrilled. Can you imagine that? How are you doing? I'm thrilled. Not just once, but at every moment, constantly. But this is the process. And what I wanted to say was I had lots of things to say, and as usual, I've gone off on different tangents, and I've run out of time. But what I wanted to bring it back to the point is that, yeah, the mind isn't diverted to anything else. Like one time, Giriraj Brahmachari at the time, he said, "Oh, Prabhupada said to him, he said, are you happy in Krishna consciousness?" And he said, "Oh, yes, Prabhupada, but sometimes I fall into Maya." And Prabhupada said, "You are always in Maya. Sometimes you fall into Krishna." So when I'm hearing this, like the mind's not diverted to anyone else, this is a bit like a barometer in Krishna consciousness. You can judge where you're at. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, yeah, they're not describing my state of consciousness. But this is what we're aspiring to. Like, again, we need to know what is the goal. I'm always in Maya. Sometimes by accident or by the association of devotees, I fall into Krishna. So we may be thinking, well, does this process work? Well, we have to trust the process. We have to trust the process. And we've all had experience that when we do follow the process nicely, we do enjoy life with a thrill. We do feel ecstatic. Our mind, like maybe we've had a day on Sankirtan where we're just completely absorbed, or we're in the kitchen cooking a feast for the devotees. We're completely absorbed, or a kirtan. We've all had those moments when we've become completely absorbed. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here this morning, right? We're coming back. We get the free sample, like outside the supermarket. Here, come and try this ice cream. Oh, that's nice. Do you want some more? Yeah, okay, now you've got to come and buy it. It's very expensive. So the devotees give that example that Krishna, he's a bit like a transcendental drug dealer. Here you go. Here's a taste for the holy name. Wow, this is amazing. But then we have to work for it. Tasmad yogaya yudrashva karma what is it? Tasmad yogaya yudrashva yoga karma sakoshalam. Therefore, we have to strive for yoga. We have to strive. We have to work for it. It doesn't come cheaply. So my point is, yes, trust the process. Trust Srila Prabhupada when he says, do you think that I would lie to you? Look at other devotees who are following the process nicely, and you'll see. We'll see that they are ecstatic. They're blissful. Find out from them. How did you become so blissful? How is your mind not diverted to anything else? And I'm just going to finish on this. As I say, I had other things to say, but I've become diverted. But I'm just going to finish on this last quote, which is really nice. Yeah. So this is from the Nectar of Devotion. My dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of Yamuna at Keshigat. And this verse is written in such a way that if you're attached to worldly desires, don't look upon the face of Krishna. Once you've experienced the beauty of Krishna, you'll never be able to go back. One devotee told me, joining the Krishna consciousness movement, it's like joining the mafia. You can never leave because you know too much. That doesn't mean you're going to wake up with a horse's head on your pillow. It means that you'll never be able to enjoy the material world again. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, everyone, it's too late. Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Devotion, once one begins this process, one will be forced. We don't want to be forcibly dragged. Like the police, they used to say, okay, come with me, what is it? They'd say like, come quietly, yeah, or I'll take you by force. But in Krishna consciousness, we don't want Krishna to take us by force, and we don't want to come quietly. We want to come loudly chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande. I'm sorry I went over slightly. I don't know if there's time for questions or reflections now. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Are there any questions or are there any reflections? So Vaishesh Prabhu says a reflection is something that you've heard that you're going to take out with you, that you'll remember, something that's hit a chord, you know? So when someone says, hey, what was that guy speaking about in the class? You can say, oh, he said the most amazing thing. Please believe me when I tell you you're not that bad. So are there any questions or reflections? Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Prabhu. Yeah. So the analogy of the riverbank. So for our river of devotion to flow uninterruptedly towards Krishna's feet, we need both banks. The bank of Sambhoga, which is the bank of connection, and then thank you, Vipralamba on the other side, the bank of separation. So yes, when we're on one side of the bank, how do we, so let's say, for instance, when we're feeling really connected to Krishna, because actually that's also a problem. In other words, if we get into an enjoying mood, right? Sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just always going to feel connected to Krishna. Everything's great, But we should remember that Krishna is completely independent. The holy name is completely independent. He's not like at our beck and call. So we should also remember that when we're only feeling connected to Krishna, we should still be in a mood of prayer and, gratitude. Thank you, Krishna, for allowing me to experience you in your holy name or in the association of devotees. We shouldn't get into like an enjoying mood. But when we're feeling separated, that's the time to batten down the hatches and really dig in, really chant, like Prabhupada said, chant like the genuine cry of a child for its mother. A child is helpless. And in the first 6 weeks, completely can't do anything. It's like Bhakti Chaitanya Swami told us when we had our son, he said, this is the closest thing to pure devotional service, because it's unmotivated and uninterrupted. You don't want to get up in the middle of the night and go and change a nappy or mop up their sick, but you have to do it. It's like, that's love. So when we're feeling like that, yeah, we have to try and chant and pray. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we shouldn't be feeling disturbed if we're feeling disconnected from Krishna sometimes. That's part of the process. We only ever want to feel connected. Oh, I just want to experience Krishna in everything. But then, like we said, if you don't have the other bank of Vipralamba, then the river won't flow properly. We have to have both things. But when we're feeling disconnected, that's a time to really take shelter, to really pray sincerely. Learn prayers to Krishna. There's a beautiful prayer by Rupa Goswami. He said, my Lord, I am drowning in this fathomless world. Yeah. Please, this one time, extend your hand to save me. So we can learn prayers for these times and just learn to really try and take shelter. But also understand that both things need to be there. It will automatically come. We don't need to pray to Krishna, please help me to feel disconnected. More often we're praying, please help me to feel some connection to you. Like Queen Kunti, she prays, please let these calamities come upon me again and again. Because by experiencing these calamities, I'm forced to remember you, I'm forced to see you. And by seeing you, I no longer have to experience the people. We don't need to pray for those calamities. They're coming anyway. They're coming anyway. So yes, we will feel separated from Krishna, but that's also okay. The highest devotion from Krishna. That's part of the process. Thank you. Any other questions or reflections or comments? Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you for the opportunity. Prabhupada ki. Sri Sri Kodanitai Mai Purshashri ki. Mahaprashadam ki. Nitai Gaur.